temperature needs to be higher for it to turn into ice?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at kind of the chemistry and physics of water, water that's under pressure needs lower temperatures actually to turn into ice. So what that suggests is that the context needs to be even more supportive. When we think about issues of equity, that becomes a really critical way of thinking about children who were born in boiling cauldrons are going to need much more application of colder temperatures in order to turn into ice versus children who are born in deep freezes. But we very often just focus on the water. Is the water good enough? Is the water working hard enough? Rather than asking ourselves, are we raising all of our children in freezing temperatures? And we're clearly not. We've decided that some children don't deserve freezing temperatures.
That they don't deserve those advantages and opportunities that we build into the system for other kids and other families. So I want to say again, thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today. Your insights are very, very helpful, and I have to say I'm really glad that and I hope this doesn't come off in a bad way, but I'm really glad that something good has been birthed out of kind of the Ferguson protests and people. I hope people feel like they've been heard and that they're responding to. Oh, one question I did have for you before we close, because you were just talking about this difference between kids in the freezer and kids who've been what do you say to people that might say, we're just being aren't we trying to just give certain groups of people special privileges, right? Or people may even say, well, if we support those people, isn't that reverse discrimination? That how do you combat or help people think about those things in better and different ways?
I think there's a real historical illiteracy in our country. People who aren't aware of where and how we got here, from whence we've come. So it's really easy to assume that you've been victimized when you don't understand the broader sweep of history and the dynamics that created the situation that you're in. But I do think there's also an opportunity to have a conversation about the intersection between factors like race and ethnicity and economic status, because we are seeing particularly middle-aged, rural, whites with increasing mortality rates, lowering life expectancy, dying of things like opioid overdose and suicide and alcohol-related diseases. Communities that actually are legitimately struggling. And there's an opportunity to marry that conversation to the very same social determinants that we see in urban populations of color, and to have a serious and for the first time adult conversation about the same underlying factors that are holding people back. Now, we're still going to see disparities by race and ethnicity because of the long history and the current day racism and structural systemic racism that's built into the system. And that is longitudinal. I mean, that's another one of the challenges that we have. People only think in, and I'm using research terms now, people only think in slices of time versus what are the cumulative effects of multiple generations being denied access to opportunity. When you can't understand that larger arc, that longer arc of history, it looks like the slice in time, once again, is just the result of someone's effort or lack of effort versus the result of multiple generations of wealth generation, for instance, in one family versus none in another. And what we know, thanks to people like Raj Chetty, about the importance of starting points in life, parents' level of education and income, and the unique contribution and significant and potent contribution that that has to later outcomes for those parents' children.
That's important stuff. Important stuff. So making sure that all of our children get access to a quality education, making sure that that at the baseline they have access to good health care could actually make a difference is what I hear you suggesting.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yep, no, I was just saying it just strikes me that making sure that everyone has access to quality health care and quality education really are some basic tools that we can use to kind of close these achievement gaps and gaps in quality of life for all of our citizens.
Absolutely. We've got to provide the context. We've got to get kids in freezing temperatures. All of them. And we don't have an innovation problem. We have a distribution problem. We know how to do this. We already do it for the most affluent children. We just haven't decided that all children deserve it.
Wow, we have a distribution problem. All right, so I'm going to leave it right there because I think if you'd like to be back, I'd like to have you back because I'd like to have you talk about this distribution problem. But you've given us so much today. I don't want minds to be totally blown. So I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Purnell, for being with us today. This is Andre Koen, and this has been another episode of Speaking of Diversity and Inclusion at the Mayo Clinic. See you next time. Cool. Jason, we need to just like chill and talk about this stuff because you're in the heart of the beast, so to speak, right? So the Ferguson stuff was real and it was serious, and a lot of people point back to that. You would be surprised. So I do some stuff with chiefs of police, and one of the chiefs asked me. He said it was about recruitment. He said. Since Black Lives Matter, it's been difficult for us to hire police officers. Do you have any suggestions on how we can help hire police officers? And I laughed. And I said, so you're telling me that since Michael Brown was shot, ever since then, you've been having difficulties getting people to join the police force. It was like more than two. I said, oh. I said, so Michael Brown doesn't have anything to do, Black Lives Matter, and Michael Brown has nothing to do with your problem. But they were making those false, whatever. So, yeah. So cool. So next steps for this is I'll put it together. Before I air it, I'll let you listen to it. And if you want to add or augment some things, you can let me know. But I'll put it together with the back end and the front end, and you'll hear it. And then I'll roll all of these out, and I'll give you a link to all of the sessions that we do.
Great.
Cool. It was good talking with you.
You too. Take care.
All right, you too. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.